So I was watching season 9 of Vanderpump Rules. I think it was episode 12. And DJ James Kennedy is talking to Sandoval about everyone judging him and his relationship, which of course they should have, because they ended up breaking up we find out like a few weeks ago. So their engagement obviously was kind of not solid. I don't think anyone's in this show is, but let me play what he said, because I felt like, why didn't anyone talk about this? Hold on.
Right, but everyone seems to love talking about just mine, right? I mean, we could go down the list. We've got Lala and Randall's relationship, we've all heard rumors about that. And then we got Sheena and Brock, where it's like, there's that whole thing, and then you got Tom and Ariana. It's like, they've got their issues too. Like, there's no ring, and like, you know what I mean? What are we doing here? I've got my thoughts, I've got my opinion.
Okay. So he kind of spilled a lot of tea in that little thing. Now, I think it's important to note that when James said this for the cameras, Lala, Kent, and Randall Emmett's issues hadn't come out yet publicly, that they were having this big problem in their relationship, that, Randall was flirting with other women and Lala was, I guess, ignoring it and just kind of paying attention to the lifestyle. And in the beginning, Lala was getting spoiled, and Randall Emmett later doesn't spoil her anymore. And so she sort of feels like the relationship takes a big shift, and he's always traveling and he's never home. So we don't know, James doesn't know we're going to find that out when he makes that statement. It was pretty, it was pretty audacious, right? To say that on camera, knowing that we didn't know all that. He definitely was trying to get something out. We also came to find out that for years, I guess, although Lala claims that she had no understanding that there was, problems in our relationship, she ignored the red flags, that for years people within the cast and outside of the cast and friendship circles were saying, like, there's rumors that Randall is cheating on you. To what degree, I don't know, but that's what was like well-known facts. So I'm kind of wondering why no one brought it up on the show, except for this little snippet that James threw in that the producers kept. Or I'm wondering, maybe the producers edited it out in the past to preserve Randall and Lala's relationship for the fans, but I just don't see them doing that, right? They'd want to create problems so it plays out on camera. Very strange, but because James's snippet that he threw in there in that episode turned out to be true, it made me want to look at the other tidbits that he said about Brockavies and Ariana and Sandoval, because there was truth in the first part with Randall and Lala. And so he kind of gives us insight into the cast gossiping behind the cameras with each other, right? On each other's dirt, which does happen. So I was like, okay, let's look at this. So I'm wondering, first of all, he says there's that whole thing with Brockavies and Shayna. So I'm assuming he's talking about, and please comment below if you think it could be something else. Brock has this, bad relationship with his ex-wife and hasn't spoken to his kids in years purportedly, and hasn't paid child support and owes child support and hasn't been like a great father to his children. Now, it could also be that Brockavies purportedly does not have a lot of money. And by purportedly, I mean, that's pretty much what he's been saying on the podcasts, that he's been doing. I did a video about that previously. I wanted to then, it made me think, I'm going to go listen to what he said about the child support and why he hasn't paid it. I'm thinking that might be part of this gossip. I'm thinking maybe financial problems, that Shayna is, signing a prenup this time because she wants to make sure she keeps what's hers. And also, I don't think Brock has a lot of money. That's my just total speculation and opinion. It just is coming through that he's kind of like struggling to find his footing, post professional rugby, trying to start a business in fitness and all this stuff. It's so tough.
Accountable. And if I'm wrong, I've now learned to be wrong. But let me tell you this, when I was 18 years old, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, pretty much all my 20s, I was a different person. And it wasn't until I've gone into an actual relationship that respects myself, all of me, with you, honey. Like, I've turned a corner, because I'll tell you what, before that, I was a very egomaniac-driven person. And ego is the biggest killer for me. And it wasn't for a fact of me having ego because I thought I was the hottest thing in town. I don't know. I don't know where it stems from, because growing up, I wasn't the hottest shit. I was bullied. I was bad. Like, having four fingers.
Can you imagine anyone bullying Brock? It wasn't until huge.
I was like, and this is a true fucking thing. When I was 16, I went to 15 schools in 12 years of education.
15?
Yeah, we moved around a lot.
Wow.
I got bullied. I got kicked out of schools. Like, I had ADHD. I had all of the alphabet.
So he's obviously got a lot of problems he's dealing with, and he's admitting that he's, wasn't a good person when he was a young man. And it apparently has had a very discombobulated life. He changed schools quite a bit. And now he's about to tell us the bullying story, which is so strange because, bullying, like, can you imagine bullying a guy that big? Like, what bully would dare? That's what I'm saying. Okay. Hold on.
And like girls' attentions. And she came up to me and she was like, "Oh, you're pretty cute," or something like that. And my response, because I don't know how to handle that at all.
I think you do, Brock.
I responded to her. I was like, "Oh, I've heard that all day."
Oh my God.
Because I generally was like, "Oh, thanks. You're not the first person to say that today."
That's not what you said.
I understand.
So Shayna's like at this point going, "Shh, quiet." Brock, take a hint. So Brock's like, I got bullied, I guess, because some girl said I was good looking, and I agreed with her and said, "You're not the first person to tell me that today." Like, so in other words, he thought he was so hot. But like, I don't get I thought like the story was like him being victimized. I'm so confused.
But there is definitely a growing up point that had happened, and unfortunately, it didn't happen when I was 19.
I can never find a train of thought
we
ever.
have more questions that you want to ask me, and
well, yeah, it's the second part of my question. Did you think that what you told her was going to stay between the two of you? Did you not think that she would then bring it up to other people?
I generally, the reason why,
because you just gave her the highlights. You didn't even explain yourself. You're like, well, there was a domestic violence and a restraining order, so there's more to the story. But have a good day, mate, and then you go home.
Okay,
and then you
so listen to this. This is telling.
Tea parties are canceled.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I didn't, because in my eyes, and this is probably another reason why, like, I process things differently. I didn't see it as that. I really thought I was trying to connect with Lala on a level where it's like, Lala, respectfully, as much as I want to talk about my kids, as much as I want to have that conversation, I don't have the right to, because I haven't been involved in the kids' life. Now, their mother has asked me to respect their space. Their mother has asked us to, like, look, do you, but just, like, leave my kids out of it. I wanted that. I didn't realize that this was where this conversation was going, because, guys, this conversation and this TV show right now has made it a lot more difficult to build bridges and repair the relationship I have with my ex. That's the bottom line, and that's the truth. So I was just trying to smooth over things and get things sorted over, and what I ended up doing was just fucking, there you go.
Okay, here we are. So I get that. So the ex-wife is like, not only did I ask you to, what I think she means by staying out of her space is that she's got a new husband, and he's the support system of the family along with whatever she's doing, and she doesn't want Brock's BS interfering with that family unit. And especially since he wasn't paying child support, right? I can only imagine that, because as you guys know, I'm like an expert on not being paid child support. So what I think, though, she probably was pretty upset about is that he made this part of his storyline on the show. And although he's the one who looks like a douche, she may not have wanted her personal laundry out on national television in the US about her kids and him and the beginning of their relationship. You know what I mean? Okay, so then he tries to set up a timeline for the listeners.
Whole time on that. No, so we met, we were dating for like 2.5 years. We ended up During that relationship, we broke up, got back together. It was a very 18-year-old relationship, 19-year-old relationship,
I had one of those.
And a lot came from that. I got caught texting, and I have an issue. I had an issue. And it used to be my ego, as I just mentioned, whereas I used to like to communicate with. I used to like flirting. I used to just like the feel of being wanted or something like that. It was weird.
Ugh.
It's definitely weird, okay? And I acknowledge that.
No, I know. You've told me this.
And then, so, that's creeped into our relationship. So that happened. And then...
So Brock likes to flirt with girls by text message, and so he can feel like he's hot. And I wonder if he's really gotten rid of this problem, because truth be told, he still seems to have quite an ego based on this conversation. Just saying.
We ended up breaking up. I moved to France to play rugby. I was 20-year-old, heartbroken. She moved on with her relationship, had a boyfriend, and at the end of the season, I was like, hey, you want to come to France? So she came to France. We were there together, and then we decided that we just traveled the whole world and we don't want to do this. Like, we broke up. And then that same night we broke up, we were at dinner and her boobs hurt at our mate's birthday party. And we looked at across the table, the girls all screamed, and then they're like, oh, we're pregnant. And the next day we did tests, and we did another test, and we were pregnant. So we're like, look, we just broke up yesterday. Like, we moved to France, we broke up, and this is my side of the story. I was still also very much in love with this woman that I thought it was, regardless of our relationship. So we went back to Australia, and we were going to have an abortion, 100%. Well, not 100%, we had the conversation about it. Now, I don't know what happened between that and that. I never told my mum anything. And then we went to our own houses, and then turned out we ended up deciding to have Eli. And so during that phase, we're like, perfect, I'll step up. I can do this. We'll get married, do the right thing, do that. And during that...
So they decide to have Eli, then they have a fight.
And this is when the incident happened. So this is in May 2011. We got into a fight at my friend's house, and it was an altercation. And then from that, nothing happened. We went back home. We were together. We decided to move back to France and spend another year in Europe because we're having a little boy. I get to spend time at home, play professional rugby. This is great. The team's doing really well. So we moved back to France together, have Eli. Eli's born. Then we go through that season, and during the middle of the season, the club folds. They run out of money, they overspend, and I have to then go back to working at a bar. I work at a bar. That puts a lot of stress on our relationship because now I'm back in an old environment that I used to thrive in. And that was bad because it led to me texting girls, and then it led to me even sexting. Like, I had an issue back then where I used to just like sext on dating apps, and it's disgusting, and I'm sorry. And that is the...
Wow, Brock, like, you are seriously not showing your winner skill set at the moment. Yeah. I honestly, if I was like on a date with Brock and he told me this, I'd be like, okay, bye.
Emotional abuse that was brought up in the domestic violence order that I probably did do, and I didn't see I was doing to my ex, And I'm sorry.
When she's just at home raising your kid and you're out being a
100%. And that was also, when I remember in that time frame, her whole world was just at our house because we're living in France.
Yeah.
And...
Okay, so then he says that they leave France because he can't stay loyal, apparently, and they go back to Australia. And while he's in Australia, they try to go to counseling because their relationship is like rock bottom, 100% because of him, as he admits in the podcast, to his credit. And she is... really wants to sort of end it. He really wants to end it. And then all of a sudden they find out that they're very, very pregnant with their second child. And he's also clinically depressed and needs to take an antidepressant. This is what the podcast says. So Shayna says he's a new person now. That's old Brock. New Brock is here. She says she spoke to the ex-wife so she could feel heard, her side of the story, and that basically it was 100% Brock's fault, everything that transpired, and that Shayna wanted to, but Shayna wasn't blindsided by any of the intel because she had heard it directly from Brock, so he admitted it to her. I guess my big thought on this is, who cares? What are you talking about? No one is ever a new person entirely. You certainly can change, but I mean, I'm sorry, I don't believe like he's an android and you like turn him on and you turn him off and turn him on again and he's another guy. And I don't understand, like, he's just owning it, but there's absolutely no indicator of any rite of passage moment that he's had, except for the TV show, when he was called out on all his BS publicly. And it was provable. And they know the Bravo detectives that exist out there. And so now he has no choice but to be a different person, right? Because his dirt is all out there now. So I do think, now I'm going to move on in a minute to Ariana, but let me just, one more thing. So he starts going through, I guess someone must have found a legal document, and so he's kind of explaining the legal document and what's in it. I'm going to let you just listen to it because it's complicated.
I have to say it like this, but this is what happened. She submitted her case, wrote it all out, submitted it. There was truth to it because there was an incident 2 years ago. 2 years earlier. Then there was other truths to it about my family being raised in a separate domestic violence house and all this. It was all truth. But it was a lot more like eccentric, elaborate, exaggerated a lot more. So the problem was when she served me with my papers to appear for this domestic violence order, the officer that got served to give it to me was on vacation. So for 2 weeks, I was meant to get served papers, didn't get served papers. Then 2 months later, cops knock at my mum's door, serving her with a order because I didn't appear in court. Here, this is put in place. It's domestic violence order.
So he's claiming that the reason that there was an actual order against him for domestic violence was that his ex filed a motion and he was never served the motion, and therefore he never went into court to fight the motion, and it got a default judgment against him for domestic violence. But it shouldn't have happened in his opinion, because if he had been able to tell his side of the story, he's saying that he doesn't believe that that order would have been issued. So that's Brock's side of the story as far as the domestic violence legal that transpired with his. So he admits that he didn't send her child support because she was limiting the interaction with the kids. And he says that he was trying to kind of quid pro quo it. And the thing is that in child support, you're not allowed to do that. Even if you don't have access to your children, or there's a legal dispute about it, you can't hold back child support, because your child exists somewhere on the planet, regardless of your interaction with it. And so your job is to support the child. So he now admits that he should have supported the children, even though he wasn't seeing the children or getting photos or whatever from the ex. And he does a whole discussion about that. So there you have it. Okay, so I'm just going to say a few thoughts, and then I'd love to hear yours. So please comment below, and then we're going to wrap up their little drama. I guess I want to give Brock another chance, as I would anyone. He's owned it. He's admitting to it. I don't think I would have dated him, but I respect that Sheena sees something inside him that really connects and resonates with her, that she wants to love him into fixing him, love him so much that he'll correct his character dysfunctions. And I hope it works out for them and their new baby. That said, the one thing I was looking to hear on the show and this big confessional that he did was, is he paying his kids child support now? And is he paying it to the government or to her directly in full? And when is he going to pay it all back? And once I know that, I'm happy. Yeah, I'm really a one-trick pony. You know what I'm saying? Be sorry all you want, own it all you want so the fans don't come for you, but just fix what you did that you could. Fix what you can. That's all. And I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that in the podcast. I really wanted to. So maybe they'll watch this video and do another podcast about how Brock has not just owned that he was a bad person and all this crap, but how he's rectified it. Because that's the key, isn't it? Okay, so James is just on a roll here. He's nailing it left and right. Now, what does this statement that he made about Ariana and Sandoval mean? That he's saying that he won't put a ring on it and everybody's talking about this, and I'm going to talk to you quickly. So what I think the gossip was that James was trying to say about Ariana and Sandoval is that they won't get married. Ariana says she doesn't want to get married. Sandoval says that he doesn't want to get married. Lala Kent has gone public and said that she doesn't understand the relationship because on camera, they are very lovey, kissy, huggy, but then off camera, they're never affectionate. They don't say like, I love you. They're like, they don't seem like they're a strong couple at all. And it's confusing. And I think there's been other commentary that, he's very metrosexual in his way. And so some people have wondered why he has such a close relationship with Tom. Although Tom is also, he's married to Katie, but they have like a very sort of strange friendship for adults, I guess. So I don't know if it's, and because I'm not familiar with Tom that much. I know he's dated a lot of girls. Like I know he dated that Kristen girl, Kristen Dowdy, whatever. Anyway, her. I know he dated her. So I know he's always dated girls. And Casey, my producer's like, Tom Sandoval is just metrosexual and but is only into women. And I'm like, okay, but I still think the relationship that he has with Tom Schwartz is unique. It seems like a childhood relationship of two, guys when you're young and you kind of connect on such a deep level. And then to see the way they're playing it out as adults is just strange. Like, I'm just kind of like, either they're so immature, I can't, or there's some bigger relationship maybe there. You can't. Am I out of my mind? So Ariana and Tom Sandoval have been together since 2013. So that's like 9 years, 8 to 9 years. And they just have a really strange relationship. And I'm not just saying this, everyone on the cast has commented on it, that they're different on camera than off camera. Why is that? Why would you show so much affection on camera and be like so tight, and then off camera you don't, and you show no affection and you like argue? It's weird to me. Just saying. I don't know the reason. I really want to know. You guys, please DM me. Okay, you guys, if you like my videos, like, subscribe, and hit that notification button. And also DM me gossip at Wilkie_Dana when you find some that you want to share, or join the Patreon for next level gossip. I drop some ridiculous stuff. I know a lot of stuff that you don't know I know from watching my YouTube channels, because I have to be careful what I do on YouTube. But if you go in the Patreon, you will go, I know why Dana did that. There's a whole layer that you guys, there's a whole layer. And sometimes I say things on here that if you know what's going on in there, it has a whole different meaning. So I'm just saying. Oh, by the way, NT and I are doing a podcast in a few weeks, and you're going to die on what it's about. Die.